with our learning outcomes for today. So by the end of this lesson, you will be able to list the skills needed for answering exam questions and apply these skills in question 1, 2019. So just to recap on what we did for our Christmas exam, while we were looking back on our Christmas exam, we listed some of the skills needed for answering reading comprehensions. So we'll be doing something quite similar today, so we'll be kind of going over that. You'll be using similar skills in your approach to your exam papers and to past exam questions, so we're going to recap briefly on what these skills were. So first of all, we have how to answer reading comprehension questions. So you're going to need a highlighter for all of these skills, okay? The first step is to highlight the keywords of the question before you read the text that is given, and the text could be an actual extract from a book or else a poem. Using your highlighter, you're going to highlight examples from the text that may help your answer. You'll return to the question, you'll plan your answer, and in your answer, you'll briefly write 2 to 3 examples from the text that will include that in your answer. So writing your answer to your reading comprehension question, first of all, you're going to have to write a brief introduction. So you're going to agree, disagree, or repeat the question in the first line. You're going to signpost your areas for discussion. So for the purposes of this answer, I will discuss. You'll write 2 to 3 points or 1, depending on the marks for the question. We'll be going over this as well. Make your point, provide evidence, and explain. Include good vocabulary and expression for high marks. And then you're going to write a conclusion. So you're going to start off with in conclusion, in sum, to conclude, etc. Answer the question in your conclusion and refer. So as you know, we're looking at question 1, 2019, and we're going to be applying these skills to our exam papers step by step, very, very slow with examples. If you have your exam papers, it's the first question on the 2019 paper. If you do not have your exam papers, then go to examinations.ie and find the Junior Cert Higher Level 2019 paper online. Then print off question 1. Alternatively, you can use the photos on these slides. So there are no excuses for not getting your work done this week, as there are several areas that will help you. You can either use your exam papers that you've already purchased. If for some reason the 2019 paper isn't in your exam papers, it's available online. So there are really no excuses. Okay, so moving on to question 1, 2019, we're going to apply these skills. So before you begin, look at how much time you should spend on this section. It says on the paper that you are to spend 35 minutes in section A, but that doesn't mean that you spend 35 minutes on the first question. As we discussed before, it's kind of minute per mark. So question 1 is a 10-mark question. So you have about 10 minutes to answer question 1, okay? About 10 to 15 minutes if you're a slow writer. So the first step is to just read the question. Before you read the text, in this case a poem, you're going to just read the question, all right? And the question here is, do you find the poet's reaction to the lamb in this poem surprising? Explain your answer with reference to the poem. So the second step then is to highlight the important words in the question. So we've read the question, now we need to highlight the important words. So again, the question is, do you find the poet's reaction to the lamb surprising in this poem? Explain your answer with reference to the poem. And the areas that I have highlighted are poet's reaction, lamb, surprising, reference. Okay? Step 3 is to highlight the areas in the poem for your answer. So highlight what parts you might be using in your answer. Okay? So the following poem is by Durcan. It's named Caught Out. Face to face with a lamb on a spring evening at twilight, I have nowhere to hide. Black legs, black ears, white baby grow. 2 black eyes peer up at me. I feel as guilty as if caught out by my granddaughter telling her a lie. So I've read through the poem, and now I'm going to highlight the areas that I need to consider for my answer. So for this, I have highlighted, I have nowhere to hide. I feel as guilty telling her a lie. Step 4, plan your answer. So make sure you include your personal response. Do you agree or disagree? Are or aren't you surprised? What evidence do you have to support this? So you'll see that I've done a quick little plan, and your plan doesn't need to be as detailed as this. It was just for the purpose of this task that I made it so detailed. So first of all, I agree that the poem that I was surprised, okay? The picture of the lamb itself is one that is pleasant and cute, but the poet describes this feeling as having nowhere to hide, and I feel as guilty. So therefore, the reaction of the poet and the image that we see are different and they're contrasting. So this is basically the bones of my essay. And all I need to do is just flesh it out with some words and phrases. So now on to writing our answer, okay? So we'll pause now that we've done all our highlighting and our planning, and now we're just going to think about how we're going to write. So this is a 10-mark question. So for a 10-mark question, you must include an introductory sentence, one paragraph which includes evidence from the text, and a concluding sentence. Make sure that you make each section very clear. Do not write one big paragraph, and you'll see this in what I've written, okay? So what to include in a 10-mark answer: a brief introductory sentence, paragraph that supports your point and uses evidence from the text, and a concluding sentence. If it was a 15-mark question, we'd write 2 points. If it was 20, we'd write 3, okay? So just for a 10-mark question, it's a brief introductory sentence, paragraph, and a concluding sentence. So what do we mean by a brief introductory sentence, Ms. Cunningham? So for your introductory sentence, you may use the following phrases. From my reading of Caught Out by Paul Durcan, I believe, in my opinion, the poem Caught Out by Paul Durcan. This poem certainly left me surprised or not surprised, okay? So what did Ms. Cunningham write for this? So you'll see that I've filled in my introductory sentence, and I have said, from my reading of the poem Caught Out by Paul Durcan, I was certainly left surprised by the poet's reaction. In my opinion, the poet portrays the lamb as innocent and cute, while also using language that makes the poet seem guilty. The next thing we need to do is write a paragraph with evidence from the text. So now you need to write a paragraph which explains why you agree or disagree with the question, or why not you were left surprised or not surprised. Make sure that you structure the paragraph so the examiner knows this is separate to the introduction, that this is not one big paragraph. This is your paragraph after your introduction which explains your answer. You have to use evidence from the text for full marks. So what did Ms. Cunningham write? So I wrote, one reason why I found the poet's reaction surprising was because he uses language to portray an innocent, pleasant, and cute lamb before he articulates his feelings of guilt, as though he has committed a crime. He describes the lamb as having a white baby grow and 2 black eyes like a baby. It is clear that the poet is a farmer, leading this lamb to its fate. He describes himself as having nowhere to hide. He feels as guilty as if he were to tell his granddaughter a lie. These feelings of guilt and the poet's impulse to hide from the lamb are certainly surprising. It is as though he is describing a monster, not an innocent lamb. Durcan uses contrast to great effect to make the reader feel surprised, adoring, and guilty all at once. So now we have our concluding sentence. So this gives you an opportunity to hammer home the message of your answer and to remind the examiner that you deserve all 10 of the marks. You should refer to your introduction and to the point you just made. Phrases you might include in conclusion, to conclude, in sum, and clearly. Okay? So what did Miss Cunningham write? I wrote, in conclusion, Durcan's reaction to the lamb is certainly surprising. He uses language and imagery associated with babies and children to describe the lamb before describing his own feelings of guilt. Okay? So now just look back on all of the work we've done. So this is how it started, a blank page with just the poem on it and some questions, okay? And this is how it's going, which looks very impressive. And before you've even written anything, if the examiner can see on your answer sheet that you've highlighted keywords, that you've planned your answer, and that you've highlighted quotations from the text, you are more likely to get a better grade, simply because if you have a planned answer with reference from the text, you're reaching for those higher marks, okay? When we do our test next week, I'll be changing the marking scheme so that you get marks or you don't get marks for your plan, because it is that important. Planning and rough work are so important for your work. So now we need to put it all into practice. So having watched me do all the hard work, it is now time for you to apply these methods to the question. I want you to complete 2019 Section A Question 1 using these methods. In class tomorrow, we're going to look at question 2, okay? And we'll be using these steps to answer this question. You can use my sample answer to help you. So our homework this evening is to try and get Section A done. I want you to start it now in the 40 minutes where we usually would have class, and then try and finish it this evening, okay? Then tomorrow we're going to look at question 2, and we'll probably try and do question 2 during class. And on Thursday, you're going to have a test on this whole section. So on Section A and on question 1 Section A and question 2 Section A, okay? What have I learned in this class? Today we learned how to time our questions in an exam, what we need to do before we answer a question, and this includes highlighting the keywords, reading the poem and highlighting the examples, and planning our answers. We also learned what we need to do for a 10-mark question, which is to include an introductory sentence, a paragraph, and a concluding sentence. And we've learned how to apply these skills in an exam question. If you have any questions, just let me know on Teams. I'll be posting this up, and we'll be doing our live class as well today. So hope you're all keeping safe, and chat to you soon. Bye.